Welcome back to The Lost Tactician. Today we're uncovering one of history's most misunderstood engineering narratives, a story where fire, wood, and human ingenuity collided to forge vessels that conquered centuries. You've heard tales of Viking longships cutting through northern seas, their dragon prows striking fear into distant lands. But here's what we often overlook. The real genius lay in something far more subtle, the way these master shipbuilders understood transformation itself. It's the 9th century along a Scandinavian coast. A Viking shipwright stands before a roaring fire, watching as flames lick an oak plank. To the untrained eye, he's ruining good wood. But he's not destroying, he's evolving. He's applying heat with precise control, watching the wood darken from rich brown to charcoal black. This moment will determine whether his ship survives one voyage or endures for generations. This is the story of charring, not as a preservation method, but as an unavoidable consequence of one of history's most elegant engineering solutions, the art of bending wood through fire. The mystery unraveled. For centuries, scholars have marveled at Viking longships with mystical reverence. How did wood survive decades in saltwater, ice, and brutal northern conditions? Charring was often credited as the answer. A deliberate preservation technique. Simple, elegant, wrong. The truth is far more nuanced. The Vikings didn't view charring as their primary defense against decay. It was a byproduct, a consequence of another process entirely. When shipwrights heated oak planks to achieve the complex curves needed for a longship's hull, the intense heat created an inevitably charred surface. This wasn't waste, it was the price of perfection. The real magic lay in three interconnected elements: superior material selection, revolutionary clinker construction, and liberal tar application. The char-bending process, fire as a sculptor. An oak plank destined for a longship's hull must curve in 3 dimensions, wider amidships, narrower at bow and stern, with a gentle upward sweep that, cuts through waves. Raw oak resists this transformation. The solution? Heat. When wood is warmed to 80 to 100 degrees Celsius, its cellular structure becomes temporarily plastic. The lignin binding the fibers softens. In this state, a plank can be bent and shaped, then held as it cools and rehardens, retaining its form with remarkable permanence. Picture the Viking shipyard. Planks are positioned over open flame, carefully rotated for even heating. The wood darkens from pale tan to deep brown. The side facing the fire, the interior of the curve, continues heating. Smoke rises. The wood blackens further. Charcoal forms, sometimes millimeters thick, sometimes extending a centimeter or more into the wood. The shipwright has achieved his primary goal. The plank is ready to be bent into the required curve. The charring is secondary, almost incidental, yet when this plank is fitted into the hull, often with the charred surface facing inward, hidden beneath floorboards, it still provides minor protection, but it is not the hero of this story. The real guardians: tar, clinker, construction, and material mastery. What truly allowed Viking longships to defy decay? 3 interconnected innovations, each dependent on the others. First, clinker construction, also called lapstrake building. Unlike later rigid designs, clinker building overlapped oak planks like roof shingles, each fastened with iron rivets. This created a hull that was simultaneously strong and flexible. This flexibility was revolutionary. A clinker-built ship didn't fight the ocean's swells. It worked with them, flexing through waves. This reduced stress on wood, minimized the microfractures that lead to rot, and allowed the ship to remain seaworthy through conditions that would have shattered rigid vessels. But overlapping planks create inevitable gaps, seams where water could seep through, where rot could take root. This is where tarring enters. Vikings stuffed these seams with animal hair or wool, then saturated them with pine tar or pitch. This wasn't just a surface treatment. It was thorough, penetrating waterproofing. The entire exterior was generously coated with additional tar, creating a dark, protective barrier between wood and the elements. Tar is hydrophobic. Water beads off rather than being absorbed. It's hostile to the bacteria and fungi that cause rot and discourages shipworms that would bore through exposed wood. For a Viking shipwright, tar was liquid preservation. The third element was material selection itself. Vikings didn't simply fell any convenient oak, they were deliberate and strategic. They understood that trees felled in winter, when sap flow diminished, yielded stronger, more rot-resistant wood. They sought naturally curved timber from ancient trees' branches and roots, using these pieces for the hulls, frames and ribs. This wasn't superstition, it was the result of careful observation. A Viking shipwright could read wood the way a sailor reads stars. Maintenance the living ship. Perhaps most importantly, Vikings understood what modern preservationists have relearned. No wooden vessel can be constructed and simply abandoned to time. Maintenance is survival. The very design of longships facilitated this reality. Their shallow draft allowed them to be easily beached and pulled onto shore for inspection and repair. A ship that spent winters on Scandinavian coasts could be examined plank by plank, seam by seam. Damaged sections could be cut out and replaced. Tar could be renewed. A Viking longship wasn't a finished product sealed in time. It was a living thing, constantly maintained, constantly renewed, yet retaining its essential character across generations. When we examine the full picture, a different narrative emerges. The Vikings were not mystical preservationists. They were pragmatic engineers who understood their materials, refined their methods through relentless experience, and built vessels embodying accumulated wisdom. Charring played a role, yes, but as a minor player in a larger drama where superior materials, intelligent design, and diligent maintenance were the true stars. You know, this reframing actually elevates our respect for Viking engineering. It suggests a civilization that achieved maritime dominance not through a single brilliant innovation, but through a holistic understanding of materials, design, and practical maintenance. The greatest achievements often look simple from a distance, but they conceal layers of accumulated knowledge and careful attention to detail. The story of Viking ships is ultimately about survival. Not just the survival of wood against time, but the survival of a people who understood their environment and worked within it. In our modern age of synthetic materials and permanent solutions, there's something, well, profoundly moving about civilizations that achieved greatness through patience, observation, and thoughtful application of natural resources. If you found this exploration into the practical genius of Viking shipbuilders fascinating, like this video and subscribe to The Lost Tactician for more unsung engineering marvels. What aspects of historical innovation capture your imagination? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.